this speech made very early, first week of January of 2022, by President Biden. And he did there what presidents typically do in the United States. He took very troubling news about the economy, found something in there that sounds positive, hyped it beyond all recognition, and then proceeded to say little or nothing about all the problems that the economy is showing in the first week of 2022. It doesn't make Biden exceptional, but that's the problem. He follows a pattern that ought to be something we're ashamed of as a society. It confuses what our leaders tell us about the reality we face with what the job of an advertiser is, to hype whatever's good about the product he or she is selling and to hide whatever isn't. So let me explain. We've had a very rough 2 years. Everyone knows that. Here in the United States and in many other countries as well. We have been suffering nothing less than the combined impact of both a major capitalist economic crash, because that's what we've had these last 2 years, occurring together in the same time on this planet with one of the worst public health disasters in the history of our species. We've had one or the other before. We've never had them both together at the same time in this manner, and we are reeling. Over the time in the United States of the first year, 2020, we lost in this country just under 10 million jobs. Those were the jobs that were lost. Net, after accounting for somebody who leaves one job and goes to other. A net loss of almost 10 million jobs. The following year, 2021, the year about which Mr. Biden spoke, we gained employment. We put people back to work. But here's the crucial reality. How many did we put back to work? 6.5 million, rough number. Which means that as of January 2022, we have, get ready, 3.5 million fewer jobs than we had in February of 2020. 2 years later, we're still down 3.5 million jobs. Now, whatever else you might call that, a roaring economic recovery, it isn't. Could it have been even worse? For sure. But that's the only comfort anyone has any entitlement to take. This is an economic disaster that we're living through. And our job situation, granted our population didn't grow a lot, but it grew, which means while the number of people sustained by this economy grew, the number of jobs to produce goods and services dropped by 3.5 million that are not there today, jobs that were there in February 2 years ago. Not a roaring economy, not something to boast about. And where do you hide it? You hide it by referring to the fact, well, wages have been going up too. Well, I do have to play my role of economist here with all of you for, again, a moment of honesty in the face of this pretty ugly playing with numbers. The current inflation rate in the United States, that is the rate at which consumer goods prices are rising, what we pay for in the supermarket or the department store, if they're open and if they have stuff on their shelves, we have to say that these days, the consumer price index of the last year has risen 7%. Probably will be showing higher numbers in the next 2 or 3 months. So if your wages have gone up, let's say 5%, and that's the average in this country, if your wages have gone up 5%, you're still falling behind. Your extra 5% compared to what you got last year is not enough to pay for the goods and services that have gone up 8%, 7 or 8%. In other words, what you can afford to buy is lower now. And that's what your wages are for, to enable you to buy things. You can't buy them if your wages have gone up. And they haven't gone up even to keep pace with inflation. So the honest argument is we have millions of fewer jobs and we have a lower real wage in terms of what it can afford you for the vast majority of Americans. And here's a last example of how bad it is. In the last week of December, President Biden signed the National Defense Authorization Act. This is an annual procedure in which the president gives a lot of money to the military. And true to form, this year, our president, this year just passed, gave $768 billion to the military, kind of more than you can wrap your head around. But I want to talk to you about how it was done so that you understand how prices and wages are manipulated in this country in the interests of some and against the interests of others. There's nothing neutral, there's nothing democratic about it. The money given to the military this year is 5% more than it was last year. So they've got a big, nice 5% raise. But let's look at it. There are two ways that money is given to the military. One is to pay more money to the Marines and sailors and Army personnel and Air Force personnel in their wages. That went up in the new bill. Get ready. By 2.7%. That's the increase all of our men and women in uniform were given. Well, if the average of the total bill for military went up 5%, but you only gave 2.7% to the wages, well, that leaves the other one, the other part of military spending could go up a lot to get you to the average of 5%. And what is the other part? It's the part we give to, ready? Big corporations, the ones who make the bullets, the guns, the planes, the missiles, the tanks, and all the rest of that. Their money went up 7 or 8 or 9%, while the worker, the people in our military got only 2.7% for the average between them of 5%. Even the government, at a time of verbally celebrating men and women in uniform, actually screwed those people by giving them 2.7% at a time when the prices they have to pay, like you and I, have gone up, consumer price index, by 7% at least. We are watching an economic system that is behaving self-destructively. Why? Why do I say that? Because the answer is a population that has gone through the levels of unemployment and economic dislocation I've just summarized over the last 2 years. A population terrorized by COVID-19, losing now nearly 1 million people to death. And we don't even know what the economic and physical health and mental health problems coming down the road from this disease are likely to be. A population that has gone through 2 years like the ones we just went through is now rewarded by being slapped in the face with an inflation, with a situation where the wages on average have gone up 4 to 5% and the prices have gone up 7%, in which they are falling behind. What a remarkable way to enter the third year of an ongoing economic and public health disaster. This is something a society would never do if it wasn't desperate, if it wasn't in real trouble.